Testing of the microphone system. Mr. Rood, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
I gotta wait in the heat. Okay, we're going to get started. 7 o'clock. Start with the pledge. Good evening and welcome. Just a couple things before we get started. Prior to the meeting, the board met in executive session for contracts and legal issues, and no action was taken. Just so everybody's aware in the crowd and on, we have the 7 board members that are here, and we also have Mr. Rude. Kevin Rude is on via Zoom. So he is on via Zoom right now. And that's all. All right, so we are going to start with visitor comments portion of our voting meeting. This is a voting meeting for the regular session. Before we do that, I'd like to read something about our visitor comments. As we begin our visitor comments this evening, please remember to be respectful during the comment section. We have students watching in our behavior and discussions, so let's be mindful of that and show them how to act civilly. We have our views, which can be passionate and emotional, but let's remember to be respectful during this time of discussion. With that being said, visitor comments for our board action items only. Please give your name, address, organization which you represent, subject matter. It is requested that comments be kept to 3 minutes. Comments relative to private, student, or employee matters should be directed to the superintendent outside of the meeting, and anyone making comments must be an Athens taxpayer. Prior to some comments coming forward, our athletic director, extracurricular director, J.B. Sullivan, is not able to be in attendance tonight. He has asked that I read his opinion on this matter. I am formally expressing my opinion about the very complicated situation that is the football co-op request from Sayre area. I believe the Athens area should deny Sayre's request of a football co-op for the following reasons. Number 1, Athens area is expecting between 45 to 50 players for this season's varsity JV football season. Sayre reported 28 players have signed up at their 8-4 meeting, which would mean a total of 73. Besides the logistical equipment, uniform obstacles, which can be dealt with, JV games in the NTL are often uncertain. Many of our opponents are very borderline in their ability to play JV on Mondays due to low numbers. An injury in Friday night varsity game can cancel the JV contest entirely. If Sayre's goal of this co-op is to provide meaningful football experience, many of their 28 players would not receive that with a joint team, and many of our players as well. An argument can be easily made that a higher percentage of Sayre's 28 kids would benefit more from their own JV schedule than a co-op team. Then our student athletes wouldn't have to make the extreme sacrifice of foregoing the possibility of a District 4 playoff. I've heard comparisons to last year's soccer co-op that were successful as a reason to approve this request. However, the co-op for each soccer team last year did not change our classification, and we still had the opportunity to compete in districts. Number 2, the timing of this request leaves the Athens football team and Sayre in limbo. As of today, 8/9, the season is already 2 days old. If Athens Board of Education approved Sayre's request, the co-op would still need to be approved by District 4 and ratified by PIAA to become official. Until then, no Sayre player could practice or play with Athens. While both entities could potentially have more emergency meetings to provide assistance, both District 4 and PIAA are not scheduled to meet again until September. That would be after week 3 of the football season with no guarantee that a co-op would be approved at that time. Number 3, Athens has precedent from Sayre in June of 2022 that they do not honor co-op requests that have been made. Sayre asked for us to cross-country co-op for this year, 2-year cycle, and after it was approved by both boards and District 4 and PIAA, Sayre rescinded it before the team ever had a practice together. This co-op, if approved, would be for 2 years minimum according to PIAA rules. We have an example less than 2 months old that shows that this is not always the case. The continued situation of uncertainty is unworkable for our student athletes. If we, as Athens Area School District, continually enable this behavior with no pertinent solution, we can only blame ourselves as we repeatedly get last-minute requests. Thank you for listening to my opinion. I appreciate the extremely difficult situation you have in front of you. And as always, no matter the decision, I will do my best to give all the student athletes who play for the Wildcats the very best athletic experience possible. Respectfully, J.B. Sullivan, Director of Athletics and Youth Programs at Athens Area School District. Again, I'll open up the floor to visitor comments for Athens taxpayers. Is it on? Is that clear?
Thank you. Deb Buck, Roosevelt Street, Athens. I don't have a huge opinion about the co-op. I'm not for it. I'm not for a merger, but I'd like to speak about cheerleading because I guess when I read the memo earlier today, the co-op would also include the marching band and cheerleading for the fall football sport because this affects my daughter. How would that work? Because we've already had cheerleading tryouts. We've already had practices. We've already ordered our sneakers. They're going to camp Monday and Tuesday or Sunday and Monday next week. How do we handle uniforms if we don't have enough uniforms for Sierra cheerleaders coming on if we have them try out and they make it? Is that a question you guys can answer?
Hi, Mrs. Buck.
Hi,
Good to see you.
you too.
I'll do my best. I think the memo said a collaborative effort, not necessarily a co-op in both the band and cheerleading. So I think that they were asking us to be creative and allow opportunities if we co-opt for their cheerleaders and their marching band to present and compete or display their talent. Not necessarily join our co-op with those.
Okay, has any ideas come about as to what that would look like?
Well, I'd like to wait until after we vote. So I want to put my efforts towards things that I know, not things that I don't know yet.
That's a great political answer.
You're getting a little better at my old age.
Okay,
Thanks to you. Thanks
that's
to you.
it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Buck.
Want me to turn this off?
You can leave it on, I think.
Okay.
Leave it right on.
All right.
Hi, Ian Clare, Dunkley Hill Road, Athens. My son was playing soccer when the soccer team did the merger or did the co-op program with the soccer team. It did go well. However, what you were talking about was literally 3 kids playing on a team that fields 40 kids. I don't really, I'm not involved at all in football whatsoever, but what they're talking about is almost 30 kids, as JB said, 30 kids flowing into our football program, because from what I can tell, the Sayre School District wasn't organized enough to figure out what was going on leading into our school season, which is now. I mean, my son is playing golf. He started. That's started. There's competitions going on, this week, next week. As far as the football team, it'd be terribly unfortunate for the kids that go to Sayre, but I'm not sure that should negatively affect the players on Athens team by having such a vast number of people show up this week, or next week, I guess. I don't know when football starts. Monday, I guess. Started this week already. Yeah, right. Yeah, yesterday. So yeah, so they wouldn't even so they wouldn't even make it to the first day of football practice. So, perhaps sad for the Sayre kids. I appreciate whatever them reaching out and saying, "Can we fix it?" I'm not sure as a school district we should.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clare. Any other visitor comments? Mrs. Nason.
Hi, Mary Nason, South Main Street. Some of my comments I want to make really pertain more to the marching band aspect. I've been very blessed over the last 10 years since I've been here to have a lot of students from Sayre and Athens. I've had the last 5 drum majors from Sayre as my private students. I currently have 4 kids from the Sayre marching band in my studio. 2 are drum majors, 1's on staff, and 2 of them are aspiring to be drum majors. I know there's a lot of things here to be worked out, but it is very unfair to that marching band for this co-op to go through. Because I heard the Sayre board meeting and they said, well, we'll figure that out if we get there. They already have done their band camp. They have a show completed. And some of the ideas at their board meeting were, well, maybe they can do pregame and we can do halftime at our home games. Well, that's taken away from the traveling band of every football team that comes. But that's, so be it. What about when we travel? How do we decide who goes? And I know from my time in marching band, you're limited by PLAA how much time they can be on the field. If you take too much time, it's a penalty against your team. Concession stand is where marching band makes their money. If they do not have home games, they are looking at a minimum of 2 years, but I read through the PIAA co-op stuff, and it says that any co-op up until 4 years must be mutually agreed upon to end. This could potentially go 4 years. 4 years for a marching band to not have concession stands, to not have regular opportunities to perform, is going to annihilate a marching band. The kids that go into marching, they go to those football games and go, hey, there's my older sibling, or there's my neighbor. And you go to these football games, and especially in Sayre, where a lot of the kids can walk to the game, maybe their parents don't even go, and you see all the little kids with their jerseys on, and they're excited because they're looking up to their role models, and you're taking that away from them. If we do a co-op, you're taking away the marching band, the cheerleaders, like Deb Buck said, my daughter also made the cheer team. If we collaborate with Sayre, how fair is that to the 12 girls or so that got cut from our cheer team to say, we had cuts because there were so many, but we're going to let the Sayre girls come along and they're going to do their cheers and their dance stuff, which doesn't work with ours because we have 2 different marching bands and 2 different songs. I talked to one of my students who is one of the drum majors, and he's going into music as a music major. There's other kiddos coming down the line that they live for this, and this is a huge opportunity. He might lose a senior night. We've all talked, and I see on the Facebook, the seniors deserve it, the seniors, but what about the senior cheerleaders, the seniors on the marching band? And my concern, and maybe it's very self-centered, but this is my studio too, and I'm looking out for my students, and none of my children are in the marching band right now. So it's really about looking out for the kids beyond football. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other visitor comments?
Oh, I want to get off the subject of your co-op. I want to know about these cat litter boxes. Is that a joke? Is that a joke? Is that a hoax or what? I hear
Mr.
they're
Stage,
here.
go
I
ahead.
hear they're not here.
Yep. Your name, sir, first.
Oh, my name is Lester Nichols, East Smithfield, Pennsylvania.
Appreciate your signs, Mr. Nichols.
Yes.
The answer is no, unequivocally no. We do not have litter boxes inside or outside for humans, okay, in any of our 4 facilities that we have. So from SRU all the way to our high school, that is not going to happen.
I'm going to shoot that neighbor kid across the road. He's got me believing. I'm sorry. Thank you.
You're fine.
Mr. Nichols.
You're fine, sir.
Mr. Nichols, trust but verify. Give me a call anytime.
Mrs. Palchi, yes, I see you coming up. Mrs. Palchi, go ahead. Good evening, Peg.
Hi, my name is Peggy Pelchy. I reside at 37 Rosebud Lane in Sayre, but I'm still within the Athens School District boundaries. I have 3 children, all of whom which play football. My oldest son, Chris, is a senior. My other 2 children, Tyler and Emma, play at the youth level, which I just left practice for. In most cases, I wouldn't be here voicing my opinion because I have felt for the most part that you, the school board and administration, have always done what is in my children's best interest. However, tonight I am voicing my opinion on the decision that you have to make this evening in regards to co-oping with SARE. And I wrote this at 2:00 this morning because I couldn't stop thinking. So it's going to be all over the place. I asked my son, Chris, last night, do you want the co-op to happen? He said, absolutely not, Mom. I asked him why. He said, because it would take away from the chance at a district playoff game. He, however, said that he doesn't have a problem with kids enrolling into Athens and playing for Athens, as that would not take away that chance. And those players would definitely benefit our team. You see, my son has been playing football since he was 4. This is his senior year, and to ask him and the other seniors to give up that chance is absolutely wrong. You are not only taking away that chance for seniors this year, but you're also taking the chance away from the juniors that will be seniors next year. What happens if Sarah has a varsity team next year? Why do we co-op this year and penalize the seniors next year? The majority of these boys have played together since probably 1st or 2nd grade. They are family when it comes to putting on those shoulder pads, helmets, and jerseys. They would welcome anyone on their team, but don't take away that chance at a district playoff game. I know that I wouldn't want to be a parent of a Sayre football player right now, especially a senior. To ask that young man who has played for Sayre probably since they could play football to move to another school, especially a rival, has to be one of the hardest things for them to do during their high school career. So hats off to any young man who decides to enroll and become a Wildcat for their senior year. I will be the first person to admit that I know nothing about the rules and regulations when it comes to having someone wanting to enroll into our school district that lives in another school district. I will also admit that I don't know the ins and outs of the PIAA rules when it comes to co-oping with another school. I do know that whatever decision is made here tonight will not make everyone happy, as we don't live in the perfect world. As much as some people would like us Athens to do the neighborly thing and bail out Sayre once again, please don't bail them out. It is not our fault that they have waited to turn down the heat on the boiling pot. Please do not feel as you are in between a rock and a hard place. You did not make this problem happen. If we were in this situation, would Sayre be there to bail us out? Would they give us an option to co-op with them and take away their shot at a playoff game, not for the first year, but for 2? Also, if we were to co-op, what happens to those boys that have busted their butts to get to the place on that field that they are today? My son is one of them. Now you're asking them to move over and give someone else a chance because a school district could not make a decision sooner than later. It is not his fault. Yes, I understand that football is a competitive sport and that you want the best kids on the field and that kids should have to show that their spot is deserved and that they should have to work for it. I understand all of it.
Thank you.
But
3
thank
minutes is
you
up.
for letting me speak, and
Thank you.
I know that this is not an easy decision for you. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry. Are there any other visitor comments? Mr. Martin.
That was actually good information to know about the cat litter.
You're welcome. That's probably a good question.
Hi. Hi, I'm Ken Martin, Brookside Drive, Greens Landing. So I checked all of the board documents and I cannot find the mission statement. So I'm assuming that the Athens School District Board mission statement is to provide do everything in the best interest of the Athens students, best interest in the Athens taxpayers, and best interest for the overall school district. Is that pretty accurate then? Okay, good. So there's a lot of chatter going around on social media and things in the paper. So I'm here just trying to get some information. So regarding the football co-op, do we truly know how many players that we're talking about that would potentially come over? I've heard as minimum as 9 varsity and a whole bunch of JV are staying back. We just heard JV Sullivan saying 28 would come over. Does anybody truly know?
I can answer that. Mr. Martin, to my knowledge, there are 28 students signed up in their portal to play football.
Okay.
I can't tell you how many will actually attend. However, what I do know is that I think when Sarah was talking on Thursday night, they were going to try to have a JV season and then try to co-op just varsity with us.
That was what our understanding, but that's not what JV
that is
Sullivan
not the
said.
case.
Okay.
You cannot do that. You have to
Okay.
co-op both JV and varsity with us.
Okay.
So I think your 9 is the 9 seniors they have. Mr.
Okay.
Martin, I think is what and then there's 28 grades 9 through 12.
And I would assume some students would decide not to.
But John, you're not 100% sure though.
We're just going by what Mr. Sullivan had
Okay,
and what we
okay.
had reported to us.
So it was also written somewhere where allegedly the PIAA said to SARE that they would allow their varsity players to play in a JV curriculum. Is that true or not?
Yes, I believe that was stated at the Thursday meeting at SARE that the PIAA would allow seniors and juniors who have played more than 1 year to compete on the JV team.
Okay, so a no vote is not denying SARE varsity players from playing. Okay, so this really reverts back to SARE then, correct? From what you just said?
If it's my understanding, and I think you're correct. but
Okay,
I
okay.
would ask SARE.
Okay, so we're not denying SARE players from playing football, if that's what the ultimate intent is. So if you go on PIAA's District 4 webpage, there's listed 115 male students between 9th grade and 11th grade, which is how the PIAA judges categories. So that definitely bumps through from Athens from 3A to 4A. I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So it appears from what everybody's saying, including Coach Young, the co-op with SARE would penalize the Athens students for a 2-year period from competing in PIAA playoffs. Is that correct? Okay. So that would basically be a self-inflicted Athens ban from the playoffs to vote yes on a co-op. Okay. So the real question that I have as a taxpayer and a parent of a football player, are there any positives for the Athens football players to vote yes on a co-op? And y'all don't have to answer that, but that's really what you should be thinking about. If your mission statement is true, to do what's best for the Athens students. Okay, there appears to be a lot of unknowns, and it appears that there's a very short window here that you guys are under, and I don't actually envy you guys for being in this situation, okay? I personally would punt any kind of a vote. There just actually doesn't seem like there's enough information.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. 3 minutes are up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other visitor comments? Mr. Roppers.
Good evening, school board. My name's Shane Roppers. I pay taxes in Athens School District. We also pay taxes in Sayre School District. I want to bring up a couple points, and I hate to go against the grain on what everybody has said tonight. Not that I disagree with what everybody has said in logistics and potentially making it unfair for the Athens players, for the Athens band members, for the students at Athens, right? But kind of go against, you know, what the positives are, right? And what our roles are as adults, as coaches, as leaders, as mentors. I think it's a little bit bigger than football, right? And a little bit bigger than the sport. We're talking about kids that, you know, might not have a lot, you know, to go from except for the mentors that they have for a couple hours at practice. A little bit extra to eat maybe at practice or at a game, right? And I think those are the kids that in our area, especially from my experience at the college level that I've seen come from a lot of inner cities. These kids need sports because it helps them in the classroom, right? It helps them at home. It helps them be better stewards of our community, right? So I think that's something we got to look at too. And I understand the constraints that we're at as a district in regards to coming in the last hour, right? Why we play the game, right? Is it to win a district title? Sure, that's an 18-year-old's, you know, first thought, right? I want to win a district title. I want to win a state title. That was my thought, right? But as coaches and as leaders, why do we teach these kids to play the game, right? Is it to be better teammates? Is it to be better people? Is it to learn life skills, right? To me now, stepping back, you know, as a high school player, as a high school student athlete, as a collegiate student athlete at a very high level, you know, that's what I learned now. Looking 10 years down the road, I became a better person because of, you know, the teams that I were on. So I think it's a little bit different than just looking at a district title. You know, does it stink to lose out on that opportunity? Yes, but at the same time, I think it's a little bit bigger. And I think as adults and as leaders and as mentors, we need to be able to portray that to the student athletes that are at question here. And, you know, the last thing that, you know, I really want to hit on, again, just hitting home is how this impacts the kids, you know, and we can be the leaders and the mentors and make this a negative impact, you know, on the Athens side and let them know how bad this is, that maybe they're going to take away playing time from them. But, you know, look in the real world, what happens when companies merge, right? And jobs are at stake and it happens, right? So do we want to teach our kids right now that, you know, we need to give up or do we need to work as a team, right? And sometimes sacrifices need to be made. And in our area, just look at a lot of the kids and how this is going to impact them. And that's really the remarks that I wanted to bring forth tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey everybody, I'm Matt Cooper. I live in Athens. So I watched the SARE school board meeting online, and what I saw was a district in crisis, governed in chaos. And I want to commend you all on the professionalism of our meetings. These are quite nice. During that meeting, I heard them acknowledge that we had come to the table with a reasonable timeline and a reasonable offer to co-op sports, and we gave them exacting timelines. And they did not respond to us. They responded to us with some sports, but without football. I heard them acknowledge that it's clear to them that we lose and they win. And they understand that they're asking us to make a sacrifice on their behalf, which provides no benefit to our students whatsoever. I did hear them say that we're good neighbors. That's fair. We are pretty good neighbors. I heard their coach acknowledge that they've been telling them for years that this problem was continually happening. I heard them acknowledge that they're at the 11th hour again. I heard them acknowledge that on August 15th, there's another looming deadline that it sounds like they're probably going to miss because they're going to vote on the 15th and put paperwork on the 16th. So we'll probably be back here again. So with that said, it's irresponsible for us to take away opportunities for our students. And when we ask, you know, why do we play the game? The game is a game and it's meaningless to us. But for some of those students that go to those district playoff games, that's a tool for opportunity. They get seen by one college recruiter, they get one semester paid in a scholarship, and they're more likely to graduate from college. Just one semester. They don't have to even keep that scholarship, and they're still more likely to graduate from college. These are opportunities for our kids here that we've worked for. We've done nothing wrong. We've met our timelines. We went to them reasonably, and we've told them, here's what we need you to do. They decided not to act. That's not our responsibility. Now, being good neighbors, I genuinely believe that they are a school district in crisis. The resources of both districts, to acknowledge the shortcomings of both districts, and to finally put the politics aside and help their students. Obviously, the board over there, they're not certain what to do, right? And I understand it's a difficult problem. They have no idea what to do right now. They're asking for help, but they're not asking for advice. It's time for us to go to them and say, hey, we can help you. We can help you put together a plan. At the end of the day, I would say this. I want to help them put together a plan. They've got to have skin in the game. We can't just give them a free handout and say, hey, we'll do whatever you want for us. They have to have skin in the game. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Any other visitor comments? Mrs. Martin.
Good evening. My name is Beth Martin. I reside at Brookside Drive in Athens. I would like to speak to you this evening about the co-op that you are asked to vote on today. And I would like you to consider the following. SARE seniors have said that they just want to play. And they can play with their own JV squad at their own school. Our Athens team would be penalized. Can everybody hear me? No? Our Athens team would be penalized, as we've already mentioned, for 2 years by PIAA unable to compete in postseason playoffs. So that would mean that our current juniors and seniors, neither would be able to partake in that. Adding both JV and varsity SARE players to our roster puts undue strain on our coaches at Athens. Has already been mentioned, the Athens players' hard work could very well be nullified, especially the juniors and seniors, by being forced to compete with at least 9 to 28 other additional players. An issue I want to bring up is numerous attempts by North Rome Christian Schools Board of Administration to form a co-op to allow NRCS students residing in Athens to play any sports not offered by NRCS have been denied. Allowing a co-op for SARE residents after having denied NRCS Athens athletes would display a lack of integrity, and it would be a clear display of hypocrisy and favoritism on the part of the board, and it would also be a case of discrimination, quite honestly. To vote yes for this co-op would necessitate a win for both parties, but this potential co-op is a win for SARE, not for Athens. It's a loss. Athens gains nothing but SARE's problems and a host of new ones as well. Thank you for voting in the interest of our Athens student athletes and their tax-paying families. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other visitor comments? Mr. Nason.
Good evening, Jeff Nason from South Main Street here. In all honesty, yes, this is an unfortunate situation for the SARE athletes. I will not deny that. However, we're not talking about 1 or 2 students. We're talking about upwards of 28 students. We have football players currently that have been busting their butts for the last 3.5 years with the goal of trying to make it to the district playoffs. And I saw an article in the Valley Sports Report where Jack Young said, this is the first time in years that we could potentially have 50 players suiting up for our team. And I know there's some volunteer coaches and from cheerleading and football here tonight that took it upon themselves to rebuild our youth programs from years ago. I know personally, our varsity wrestling coach took it upon himself to rebuild our wrestling program in the youth sports so that we would have teams now. And they put in the effort. And to sit there and listen Thursday night to the football coach say, well, we've known about this for 2 years. Okay, well, what have you been doing for the last 2 years? As I said, Sean Bradley looked at a wrestling youth program that was in trouble and went down and volunteered his time and rebuilt that program. My son is one of those kids that he helped bring along. So for us then to potentially enter into a co-op where we penalize our kids or tell our kids, hey, now instead of competing against just the kids that you've been competing with for the last 5 to 10 years, now you've got these other kids from SARE that you're going to have to compete against. And, you know, we have 50 players and a lot of them are going to be JV this year. SARE has admittedly said that a lot of their players are JV level. They don't have varsity experience. So how is that fair to our JV team to split playing time with SARE JV players? When you take 2 schools that have 2 teams and put them together into one, you're cutting the opportunities in half. So I think, you know, as the Athens School Board, we have to do what is in the best interest of the Athens students. And, you know, as has been said, this is not closing the door on SARE being able to play. This is just maybe not the way that they intended their senior year to go. And I'm sure some of those players have already made decisions and arrangements to try and get their senior season somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other visitor comments? Jamie, is you coming up or? Okay. Okay.
I haven't seen you guys since March.
It's been a while.
You want to know how I know? Jamie Rousher, 3578 Willawanna Road. I have the agenda here from March. I have a whole folder of stuff, guys, because we're friends now. But listen, here's the deal. I'm here in favor of you now because you guys did stuff the right way. Your committee said in the March meeting, I have notes on here, that you told Sarah that by May they had to tell you what they wanted to co-op with. So as much as I would love to see my kid play with some of his buddies that he went to St. Agnes again, like that'd be so cool. This isn't how we demonstrate cleaning up other people's mess. This is not the kind of leadership and management that we want to show our kids. Like, they were asked to think ahead about this. It's in the minutes. So, I mean, we're a school district, not a fire department. They can't throw this in our lap. That's not fair. And I'm here, like, honestly, the thought of some of these kids I know loving football and not being able to play this year really breaks my heart. So to Sarah, if these guys do the right thing, in my opinion, you had better get your JV team together. You had better get your shit together and get those kids on the field and that band out there and those cheerleaders on the sideline. So I hope they have to be listening. But I mean, seriously, this isn't your problem. So you guys have enough stuff to deal with. Hopefully I won't have to come back with any of that. But anyways, thank you. So I just, in case anyone forgot, you guys did the right thing in the spring. So
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you for making me laugh. Any other visitor comments? Okay, with that being said, I just want to make sure, Kevin, Mr. Root, are you still there? Can we hear you?
Yes, I'm here.
So,
All right.
Mr. President, I'd like
Yes.
to just say we did receive several emails, several correspondences, and everything that is submitted to the Board of Education email on our website comes to us. We have read them. There are other multiple correspondences that the residents aren't here tonight, but we have received them, and thank you. That is one way that we as a board know what your thoughts are and how you want us to represent you. So thank you.
Okay, we do have 2 agenda items tonight. The first one is number 3, personnel. Do I have a motion and a second to bring this to the table?
Moved.
Second.
Any discussion on personnel? We have some personnel. We have some resignations. We have some temporary 90/90 contracts. We have some support contracts. We also have some athletic contracts, I believe, for junior high golf. And I think our spring sports, yes, our spring sports, and a volunteer for girls wrestling. Any discussion? Okay, Christine, when you're ready. Not ready. Try now.
Mrs. Braun,
Yes.
Mr. Cheresnowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Frisbee,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Minnick,
Yes.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
and Mr. Rude.
Yes.
Okay, number 4, we have contracts and agreements, which is the formal request to the co-op. Do I have a motion and a second to bring this up for discussion and vote?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the co-op? We have the information in our packet, the letter from Dr. Jill Delosio on Friday, August 5th, from their board action item meeting they had on August 4th. Any discussion? Okay, Christine, when you're ready.
Mr. Cheresnowski.
No.
Mrs. Cooper,
No.
Mr. Frisbee,
No.
Mr. Jones,
No.
Mrs. Minnick,
No.
Mr. Owen,
No.
and Mr. Rude,
No.
and Mrs. Braun.
No.
Okay, thank you all. That is our meeting for our voting meeting. Do I have a motion and a second to adjourn to our work session meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. On to our work session meeting. Thank you. Thank you for everybody that talked and spoke. We are now at the superintendent's report. Mr. Stage, superintendent's report, please.
Everybody just wait and listen,
I would suggest you might want to stay.
please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cheresnowski. First of all, I appreciate the Athens Area School Board for being proactive, progressive, and always thinking one day ahead, not just one day ahead, but 1 year ahead, 5 years ahead, and 10 years ahead. With that being said, I would like, and I would request that the Athens School Board members put on our agenda to make a formal request of the Sayre Area School District to commit to a full co-op of all sports in the right timeline that doesn't penalize anyone. So that would be submit numbers to the PIAA prior to October 1st, 2023, with an expectation of starting those co-ops in the fall of 2024. I ask you guys to put that on the agenda for discussion and to send a formal request, if approved, to the Sayre Area School District.
That would be for next week's voting meeting.
That would be on the August 16th agenda. The second part of my conversation has to do with our RFPs, which I'll dive into a little bit later. So like everyone here, social media is a great outlet for information. There's a lot of discussion on what's best for our kids. I'd like to define our kids. Right now, this board has to worry about the Athens Area School District Wildcats. Sayre has to worry about their Redskins. I love the fact that this conversation starts around a topic such as athletics. I love athletics, and I think anyone knows you see me at almost many events, not all of them, it's impossible. However, the true driving force is to recognize the opportunities available to the Athens Area Wildcats, especially those students in our high school. Students in our high school get to participate in a myriad of extracurricular activities that allow them to explore their interests, their passions, and help them develop their careers moving forward. There are 8 to 10 AP courses that they can take, which successfully passed allows them to gain credit for college. We offer 20 to 22 dual enrollment courses that allow those students to get dual enrollment courses. We have career pathways in not only the general college prep, we also allow our students to go to the Career Center. We also have a pre-engineering, computer science, and all sorts of types of pathways that allow our students to prepare for the future. My request is that the school board tonight considers asking the Sayre Area School District and those that are going to be presenting the RFPs that we get to choose from to consider, and I'm asking you guys to put this forth to the Sayre Area School District as well, to bring all of their 9th through 12th grade students to the Athens Area School District on a tuition basis beginning in the 2024-25 school year. If it's about opportunities, if it's about our kids, I'm confident that we offer opportunities. I'm confident that what we can give this valley is an exceptional opportunity to be successful and to grow this valley. I've been here for 10 years. This conversation came to me on my very first day, and it has never left the room. Third thing, we received 4 RFPs. In my opinion, in discussion with the board, I recommend that we bring Alloy 5 and Hunt Engineers in for a formal presentation to show us and allow us to ask and answer questions on what, one, a building feasibility study does for us, because we are space poor in some areas, not all, and 2, the viability of a real school merger between us, the Athens Area School District, and the Sayre Area School District. We have to understand if it's even viable, and you can't do that until you do the right studies. I want to remind everybody that the Athens Area School Board brought this conversation up in January. We approved an RFP in April. We are thinking forward. We're not thinking about next year. We are thinking about the 5 10, and 15 years ahead of what this valley could potentially look like. Board, please place those things on the agenda. I hope that you address them, and I hope that you pass those resolutions. Thank you. I would like to end my report.
So just to be clear, the RFPs that we have, you want those two groups to put in their feasibility study for a merger as well on the tuition for 9 through 12.
Correct.
How that would look.
Correct. I want them to address, and I also want you to formally request SARE to consider what a tuition basis student enrollment of their 9th and 12th grade students here in the Athens area school district would look like. Okay.
And that would mean just as if they were to come in under any other program tuition based, they would be an Athens Wildcat.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And also, Mr. Stage, to sort of clarify, Sarah would still, under that proposal,
Yep.
Sarah would still stay a separate school district, would maintain K through 8. We're basically recommending their 9 through 12 students would come and become Athens students.
Correct.
Under that.
Now, I know that there needs to be some research done, but this is a solution that has been offered in other districts. I don't know all the scenarios. However, what I have heard for 5, 7 years is the lack of opportunity or the inequity of opportunity. Let's address that. Let's address that without getting into a lot of sticky wickets that a merger brings.
Can't get much more transparent than that. To know how appreciative this board is of Mr. Stage. He has put a lot of time and effort into these proposals and these requests. And it's always for the best interest of kids. Our kids preparing for a future. You have to plan. You can't just wait till the 11th hour and expect your neighbors to take care of you. Plan ahead.
Anything else to report, Mr. Stage? That was my next question. I think we need a motion and a second to add those to the agenda next week. Mr. Barrett, is that correct? We need the motion and a second to add those? Because we have a week. Okay. If there's no discussion and no objections, we'll add that to next week's agenda.
I just want to say, with adding this to the agenda and us voting on it next week, if we vote on it, this puts everything in SARE's court. This puts everything on SARE to make their decisions and make their plans. This is what we're offering to do. This is how we were willing to do it. It's up to them.
The other piece of it is, and this is why we started talking about this a while ago, is we want facts.
When we get,
and over the last how many days now, we've seen a lot of different things, and we've talked about this merger study now since I believe May. We're gonna have facts, and we can make decisions on those facts. And you know, we would like Sarah to be a part of that as well.
if we have the two firms come and do a review, is that done during a public meeting? Or how does that normally play out?
That typically depends. I will talk to Mr. Barrett about that. I think we could do that in a board retreat so that we would have a little bit more freedom to ask questions. But Mrs. Cooper, I want to assure you, all those results would come out and be presented publicly once we had the opportunity to make a determination on which firm we may want to use. I do want to point out that both firms have partnered with multiple agencies to give a full and comprehensive report. And that's why I think we recommend those two. Yeah.
Comment, the word report carries a couple meanings, but normally what they do is they give us a written report when they're done, which would certainly be available for anybody to read, and they should read it. They take their input in various ways. They use a lot of government information. They use a lot of school records. They use some input from all the participants here in the district and at both districts. But the advantage of this is we have somebody who doesn't really have an interest, a vested interest, giving us a real recommendation. Thank you.
And that data is available, as you said, to the public. Thank you.
So if there's no objection, we'll add that, Christine, to next week's agenda. Okay, we do not have, okay, understood. We do not have a Blast IU 17 rep. Mr. Owen, Northern Tier Career Center, please.
There's been no meeting since last time we met here. The next meeting is actually next week, so no update this week.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jones.
I have nothing to report. Thank
Nothing to
you.
report. Okay. Solicitors report. Mr. Barrett.
I have several pre-trials tomorrow on assessment appeals, so I'll be able to give you a better report next week. I also have a couple of deadlines on some litigation, which will be coming in either Monday or Tuesday of next week. So I guess I'll defer my report till then.
Okay. Okay, visitor comments. These are on board action items for next week's meeting. If there's any comments, please give your name, address, organization which you represent, and subject matter. It is requested the comments be kept to 3 minutes. Comments relative to private student or employee matters should be directed to the superintendent outside of the meeting. Do we have any visitor comments on board action items? Board action items.
That would be this.
For next week, yes, the ones that we just talked about, yes.
Shane Roppers, I pay taxes here in Athens School District and Sayre School District. For next week's meeting, if we're gonna talk about and discuss the Sayre co-op for next fall, can we also put on the agenda for North Rome Christian School as well?
Mr. Roppers, as soon as we get something from North Rome, we will address it. I think we've worked with them a couple times, and as long as they are they PIAA sanctioned? I think that was a question we had last time.
Yep.
And we would give that to our extracurricular committee to review.
Okay.
Absolutely. Not sure if it would make next meeting, but we could make it happen in some timeline. So.
That's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other?
My name's Kimmery Gorsline, 1212 Front Street. Hi, neighbors. I was hoping I could get Shane to do this for me. That's why I jumped on him here. Sorry. But these have been submitted. I have emailed February 6th, February 8th, June 22nd, June 27th. I have called twice. I spoke to Mr. Stage once, and I have emails here with our request for North Rome Christian School. The request is for Athens residents, Athens taxpayers, whose students, like mine, who attend North Rome to have eligibility to play sports in the district that they reside in, that North Rome does not provide. We were told that we had to get a PIAA membership, which are a tiny little non-government funded, no money school, applied for and paid for last year and this year. And we still have gotten nowhere. So I'm with Shane. I would like to request that it be a board agenda item and something that we can have conversations about.
Mrs. Gorsline.
Yes.
Absolutely. If you want to leave that with me, I'll make sure that the committee gets it. I apologize. I don't have an email from June 27th.
I've got them here, and I talked to you on the phone.
We did talk on the
Yeah,
phone.
and it was a very pleasant conversation.
Yeah, and I did talk to the extracurricular committee meeting.
Yeah.
But I'll give you my cell phone number so that doesn't happen.
I mean, at this point, I think enough time has been spent spinning circles.
Yeah.
Like it needs to be addressed here.
Yeah,
I have
no
been
problem.
told it needs to be addressed with the extracurricular committee.
Yeah.
Don't know who they are. Like, I don't know what other steps to take other than to show up here and
Yeah,
put
and
it out as a
and we can
request.
look into it. We also try to consult with PIAA too.
Okay,
Um,
and we have our membership. We
yeah,
paid our
I think that
whatever,
was-
$800, and again,
Yeah.
school that has
The
zero
last-
money.
Yeah, the last time I responded, I think I responded to Mr.
Redinger.
Redinger, and it was in March.
Yep.
About, that they reviewed it and we weren't looking to go forward with it at that time.
Right.
And I know we talked again, and I apologize. I remember that.
Okay.
I did talk to the extracurricular committee, but I don't remember an email, but I apologize.
Okay.
I just looked on my phone and my email and I don't see it.
Right. Okay.
So I'll give you my cell phone number. And if
Okay.
you don't
I think
ever-
I've got that
If
from
you
last
do
time.
ever email me, you don't hear from me within a day.
Well, I've
text or
I've
call.
sent them to multiple people, so.
Oh.
All right, so we can have that on the agenda for next Tuesday?
We would send it to the extracurricular meeting. I don't know if they're going to be able to meet and discuss it before the 16th, but
When do they meet?
they meet when needed.
Okay.
When
I
they're
mean,
all-
because
when-
to me, this is a need. I am in Athens
Mr.
taxpayer.
Rude, we can schedule something.
Yeah.
And we can have that. Mr. Rude is the chairman of that, and he can schedule it.
Yeah,
and-
there were conversations
Yep.
with him about that today as well.
Okay.
So
Yep.
it's
Okay,
time.
Mr. Rude,
to
are you still there?
Do something.
Yes, I am.
Can you schedule a meeting then and get that scheduled? And then not next week, but the week after you report out, we can have it on the agenda, whatever you guys decide for that.
Yes. Have we received a formal request for 2000, for this next year?
This year.
Yeah, for this year, have we
22,
received?
23?
I believe so, but I can have one sent out again tomorrow to confirm because we have a new administrator. I don't know if that would matter. Mr. Webster.
The request I had seen was for this past year when North Rome was in Rome and part of within Northeast School District.
Right.
But if a formal request has been put in place now that North Rome is in Ulster, we'll definitely look at it.
And who do I send that to? Or who do I, Mr. Webster, send that to? Because
You can have it sent to Mr. Stage, Mr. Sullivan, myself, and Mr. Rude.
Okay, we'll send it to all.
Okay.
And you can also drop off a paper copy if you're unsure to get it. So,
Okay. All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other visitor comments on board action items only? Mr. Martin.
Ken Martin, Greens Landing. These two questions are for Mr. Stage. So the Hunt engineering study that you just referred to and whoever the other engineering group was, so are they comprehensive? So you'll look at everything from financial to legal, you're looking at record, maybe you're doing core samples to look at the toxicity underneath that school and all that kind of stuff?
So they do a complete building study. They also look at financials. They look at contracts. They look at geographic logistics. They take a very full, like, it's not just.
So are
one
you looking at
organization.
record though also?
What's that?
You're looking at from a record standpoint? Resource Conservation Recovery Act? So whoever actually buys that building owns it? So if there's any toxicity underneath that building?
Well, it's probably going to be a part of that conversation as well. I will tell you that Hunt is partnered with the Pennsylvania Economic League, and Alloy 5 is Alloy 5, PFM, and McClure. So we did ask for a very comprehensive.
Remember though, that
So
if
you
we
want us to
buy
make
a
sure we consider to
building,
have
we
that.
actually own it cradle to grave.
Yeah.
And then the second thing was that piqued my interest. So you asked the board, I believe you said, to look at a potential 9 to 12 SARE moving over. Right. So are you concerned that the engineering study, I'm getting feedback.
Oh, okay.
Are you concerned that the engineering study is not done, that we even have the physical space before we ask SARE kids to come over?
So I'm more concerned about providing opportunities for all students. And I think that given the opportunity to possibly have a year to plan, that we might be able to make that happen. Although if we have if we talk to Hunt, who we've already had a building condition study done in the past, we know that there's possibility we could put portables outside, classrooms or offices, whatever we need to do. We were going to explore that in this process.
So are you gonna also explore though kids that are existing taxpayers, how they schedule as opposed to kids paying from the outside? Because that's really what you're now saying, that you potentially kids are gonna be displaced to an outside terminal.
I'm not sure.
So I thought I just heard you say if there's no room, you'll actually have outside trailers or something.
Right, like in the parking lot
Yeah, that's what he just said.
or for offices.
For offices?
Yeah.
Okay, not for classrooms.
Yeah, you can have regular ed classrooms and portables. It happens in a lot of school districts where they have a size problem. However, I think we would have to work with probably a scheduling expert, and we could develop a schedule that allows all those students to flow through that building, considering the size of the cohorts.
Okay. So it's gonna be phrased though to Sarah that this is, that you're just
testing the waters to see how they feel about this? Or are you asking
I
the
would like
board
them to look into it for us.
Were you asking the board to actually ask them that they would potentially start registering?
No.
Okay.
No. It's gonna take time to make that happen. I would rather make sure that we have a good plan,
Yeah, I
but that good plan only works if we're able to get Sarah on board so that we can plan collaboratively of how they're going to distribute their kids to us
Yeah, sure.
and how we make that work. There are also a lot of other little logistic things in terms of staffing and things like that we also have to hurdle, and that's gonna take some time.
I do actually applaud your effort though to move forward with this.
Let's move forward.
I mean, we've been here for 27 years and I've been hearing this for 27 years. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Any other visitor comments on board action items only? Mr. Cooper.
Sorry for the unprofessionalism. I was standing back there with my hand raised. I didn't realize we were going to have a chance to talk again. Couple questions. One, what if Sarah says no? Do we eventually, what if Sarah says no, they continue to decline? Does the state eventually come in and say you must? And what's our plan for that? I don't know the answer to that.
So I shared this with the board because they've asked questions. They're very proactive in asking questions. The state will not, if everybody's waiting for the state to come in and make this happen, that's not going to happen. Okay. The Pennsylvania Department of Education is not focused on consolidating school districts right now. In fact, they did a study in 2017 and did nothing with it. What's going to have to happen is it's going to have to happen either organically, right? Or financially. They're going to have to be so distressed that it has to happen. And I say they, it's an us thing. I'm sorry. Right now, I just want everybody to know, we are, as a district, are in very good shape.
Yeah.
Okay. Our kids have opportunities. All of our extracurriculars and athletics have numbers. We're not cutting programs. I know social media said Athens is short. That's why they're asking. No, that's not the case. I want to be very clear about that. We're very healthy as a district. Our numbers have not declined dramatically since the time I've been here. We've declined 5.6% enrollment since the day I started in 2013. SARE has declined by 12.6%, according to the PDE data. It might be greater depending on enrollment this year. For the last several years, we've hovered within 20 students of 2,050 for the last five years. I think we're I think we're actually starting to stabilize. Now, I could say that tomorrow and we could have an exodus because something happens. A factory shuts down or we don't have that. But I do want Sarah to answer the question, is it about all opportunities? And that's really what I'm asking them to do. Is it about all opportunities? And if it is, we're about all kids, then let's think about all kids.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I agree with that.
I love football and I'm going to be there every home Friday night. You can see me. I stand by the fence. I wish I could eat hot dogs the whole time, but this is a body built by hot dogs and I probably should stop.
Mr. Chairosnowski, did you pause my 3 minutes?
We did.
Sorry.
I coached 3 sports as a teacher.
Yeah.
So that's a great segue. But the real heart of the matter is our goal is to develop students that are successful and competitive in the real world by giving them real opportunities to succeed academically. Sports is that icing on top of the cake. It creates strong, responsible, character-driven individuals. Sports has absolutely a role in the education of a student. I will never say that it doesn't. But if we're here and we're clamoring on social media and we're going to have town halls, I hope the conversation is about everything but the icing on the cake. Let's talk about the cake. And I just asked that question.
Yep. So I don't disagree with anything you've said there, by the way. I'm an advocate for more academic resources. I share your opinion. The next question is a brief one, and you may not have an answer. Is there a plan in this recommendation to ensure that SARE has skin in the game? There should be a contribution from them in this effort. As you said, we are doing quite well. We are offering them help. And I think we should advocate for that. We're good neighbors. I'd like us to make sure that we have some way to say, you need skin in the game. And so Oh, go ahead.
Before you go on, yeah, so skin in the game, that's something that we're talking about.
Okay.
Mr. Chairznowski and I are going to have an opportunity to have that conversation this week with their leadership team.
Yep. Okay.
And I want to say, I'm not saying Sayre's not in a good spot, but I don't want people to say that we aren't.
Agreed.
Okay?
Yep.
I want to be very clear. I don't work for Sayre. I respect what they do, and I love their motto of being a little school with a big heart. And that is so true, because I was there Thursday night, and I saw a lot of heart, passion, and emotion, and I give them all the kudos in the world for trying to be that. However, if we're talking about our kids and opportunity, let's see where we really stand on that.
Yep, I agree with that. And I agree also. They're dealing with a difficult problem. I don't blame them individually for having the problem, but it's been going on for a while. My final point, and then I'll stop. With the feasibility study, I would encourage you to have the engineering and firms that develop that study for you present it to the public. It's going to have more authority coming from the people with subject matter expertise. Now, you may do that in a forum that doesn't allow the public to directly interact with them, but it's going to have more authority if it comes from people with subject matter expertise. So I would encourage you, and certainly do your private meetings with them so that they understand what your requirements are. And if you need assistance developing requirements, you have people in the community that can help do that. But the presentation of the plan will go over much better if the engineers that wrote it are there to present it and kind of overcome maybe any political backlash that might be generated from misunderstandings.
Time's up. Thank you.
Mr. Cooper, thank you for your time, me using it.
Any other?
Hi again. So if I understood correctly, you're looking at approaching Sayre with a possible cooperative, all-inclusive sports agreement starting in 2024. Just a couple of things I want to ask that the board consider when looking at that. Certain sports, like wrestling, this last year, Sayre had 19 guys on their roster. By the time we wrestled them, they had 2. Wrestling is one of the few sports that you can have 1 guy or 19 and they all get to participate. Whereas if they come to us and they combine, you're eliminating those guys because they have to wrestle off. They're not going to get to participate at all. I think it'd be a great idea if they have a small roster, if maybe they say, hey, can we practice with you guys? Because we have a lightweight and a heavyweight and nothing in between. But if we co-op with wrestling, you're eliminating, because their guys were still able to come to sectionals and individually do as well as they could. At our dual meet with them, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Athens won every match. Had they been co-op with us, their guys would have had to wrestle off, possibly lost those matches and never wrestled a varsity match all year. I'm not looking out for my own kid. I'm gonna say he did well as a freshman. I'm looking out for all the other kids. I do have other boys and a daughter who wrestle, and I think that we should kind of maybe perhaps look sport by sport and say, in the case of wrestling, doesn't matter how big their team is, they all get to participate. So until maybe a merger down the road, and then we have to, until that point, perhaps sport by sport, we kind of look and say, are those kids better off? I do think, like I said, practicing together, that'd be a great opportunity, because if they don't have those weights, maybe we could do some practices, combined practice, but I think it'd be better. Another sport to consider is junior high softball. My daughter's in 8th grade last year. They had 36 girls on the junior high softball team. Sayre had, I believe it was 11 or 12. To bring 48 girls together, and they do double headers. Even then, a lot of our girls with a double header on a Saturday got 3 innings of play. At junior high level, I believe that is correct. PIAA said absolutely no cuts. There should never be a cut at junior high level. That is a level where there should be instruction as opportunity as much as possible. I think that maybe going sport by sport and saying, do you have the numbers? What are your projected numbers? Because we don't want to take away opportunities, especially at the junior high level, or in the rare cases like wrestling, where no matter how big your team or how little, everybody gets to participate. The proposal, yes.
So my understanding, right, is that that wouldn't include junior high. It would include 9th through
Right.
12th. right? And
Okay.
so basically what we're asking SARE to consider is that pretty much 9th through 12th is now all Athens, including all sports, correct? SARE would be Athens Wildcats from 9 through 12, with SARE paying a tuition type
And
fee.
that's-
SARE would then only be from kindergarten to 8th grade would be
And that was my
SARE
concern with the
school.
wrestling being one of those few sports that they would benefit their guys more, our guys more. Also, it would bump us from AA to AAA, which for just wrestling, that would eliminate, that could potentially eliminate some of the guys who in the past who've made it to states in AA from being able to be competitive at AAA level. So just some things to think about with the wrestling specifically.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Any other visitor comments on board action items? Mr. Claire.
Ian Clare, Athens Township.
Oh, there you go.
Just a financial question. So the study that we're proposing to do, does that require Sayers buy-in before we do it, or we're just coughing up the cash to do it regardless?
If it pleases the board. Go ahead. I think this board is committed to seeing that feasibility study through. We are going to ask Sarah to partner with us, which we hope that there would be a financial commitment as well.
We can't plan ahead for our students, for Athens, without knowing what the future holds and what our buildings are. And we have to look ahead if a possible merger. If those kids are gonna, let's say, into our district eventually, we want to know that we're planning ahead.
Right. So as I heard you explain it, that it would be, they would pay per kid to come here?
Yep.
Is that?
Yes.
Okay. So with the current status at Sayre, where they've lost a fair number of students to Waverly, and they're going to lose, I personally know at least 4 or 5 families are taking all their children to go to Waverly next year. Well, yeah. I'm just wondering what that means to us as a school district, if everybody's jumping ship already, where does this put us?
Why are they jumping ship?
Well, we know that I don't want to say anything.
I understand that. And I think the answer to your
Obviously, you jump off a ship if it's sinking.
And the answer to your question is,
if you have the ability and the means to do it.
If we can do this, right? If it's a possible thing, right, logistically speaking, and Sarah agrees, then they know where those kids are going. It'll be a fixed rate. It'll be determined not by us, but by the Pennsylvania Department of Education, because they will be involved. And they can focus their efforts on things that they do really, really well.
Okay, thanks. That was all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Clare.
Mr. Sage, can you clarify the tuition component of that?
Yeah.
If we did a high school merger tuition basis, who's paying that tuition? The families or the school district?
The Sarah area school district pays the tuition. They pay the tuition to us. Those students are enrolled as Sarah students into the Athens area school district, and then they will be, an agreement will be made to make payments. The payments will be quarterly or biannually or something like that.
Right. The word tuition is a little misleading. I want to make sure everyone had to understand.
So even when a student comes from an outside district to participate in a program that is not offered in another district, the sending district is responsible for the tuition.
Right.
This was historically popular before the jointures back in the 50s, where the townships would basically had their own school district, and they would pay to whatever was the high school to send their kids on a tuition basis. It was how our education started in the 50s and 60s.
Okay. Any other visitor comments?
So what happens to the rest of the?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Because people online can't hear you.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
My wife's telling me to shut up. So what happens to the rest of the tax money? So taxes are based on property. So we end up with keep it simple, 100 students, we get the tax base of 100 students. Where does the rest of that tax base in Sayre go?
Right.
That, like, not every household in Athens has a student, right?
Right.
Like, we are not paying tax-wise, then where would the rest of that? So if they come up with a number and say, okay, well, it's $100 to
It's
send
not
a
gonna be
kid-
$100. It's
I
gonna be-
know it's not gonna be $100, but
gonna
say,
be-
say $6,000 to send
It's
this
not gonna
child.
be $6,000. It'll be more than that. And it'll be what it costs us to educate a student. So that tax base comes from Sayre, right? And those students, that tax revenue goes to Sayre, and then it is transferred to us on a per student basis.
But I guess my point is so you bring in $4 million or $6 million, whatever our budget is. Sayre brings in 2 for argument's sake. So they got $2 million and they're going to give us 200,000. And where's it? Like why?
So-
Where does the rest of that tax burden?
Let's just use an example. So the cost of educating a student is not simply the basic ed funding amount. So what it costs to educate a student in the Athens Area School District to go to secondary school is a formula that PD decides. And that they take all of our data, our economic data, our revenue data, and they determine how much it costs to educate one student. So if you were outside of the Athens Area School District and you wanted to attend 9th grade in Athens, it would cost you $15,300. That is our tuition. I think it's a little lower for K through 6. It might be 13,000. So I don't necessarily understand what the tuition is at Sayre. It might be 13, it might be 12,000 to educate a child. So what they would do is they would agree that every student that they enroll, they would pay us the tuition. It would be either their tuition rate or ours, so that we would educate their students on their behalf. And then Sayre would pay that based upon the revenue that they collect.
Christine's saying that formula's on their website or our website.
Our website, Nancy had posted that.
So if I took all the students in Athens Township, it would add up to our budget?
Relatively closely. Minus, I think they take out there's some things that they're extracted from that formula prior to them dividing that out. But you also have to consider we have 2 tuitions. We have a secondary tuition for 6 through 12, and then we have an elementary tuition, which is K to 5. And those are different. Yeah, the state makes that. That's why you'd have to involve the Department of Education. And like I said, like, this is not something that just happens tomorrow, but this is an easier way of trying to complicate the politics of everything and get students and opportunities. It wouldn't be an overly financial burden for the Athens Area School District or the Sayre Area School District, because at the end of the day, the money that they would be spending to educate those kids 9 through 12 would be passed through to us and allow us to educate those kids.
Okay.
And you would have to, and typically they happen in 5 and 10-year agreements. So you can negotiate the rate.
I think that's it. Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Confirming that again.
One more, the last one.
Mr. Claire brought up some good questions. If we do the feasibility study, will that data be in the study? So that you can see what that number is before you all vote?
I asked the board to make that part of our RFP for them to include that information.
So it'd be in the study, we could look at it and the public could have access to it?
Yep.
Cool, thanks.
Yep. Okay. All right, we're gonna move on, if there's no more visitor comments, to financial business. This is a listing of our general bills that we have, cafeteria bills. Is there any discussion on our financial business? Personnel, we took care of today. Do you see any reason are we gonna have personnel next week added, or?
Yes, Mr. Chairznowski, we still have 1 or 2 positions to fill. We made a couple offers yesterday and they didn't accept, so we're going back to draw 1.
Okay.
And then I think we have some aid spots we may fill. We also have a long-term learning support position at the high school that we need to fill, and hopefully we'll have
That's the
that.
last of our positions.
Gosh, I hope so.
Okay. All right, contracts and agreements. We have Empire Access Internet Service contract for this coming school year and SRO agreement for this coming school year. Any discussion or questions about this?
For the SRO, I'm sorry. The SRO agreement, I assume the change there is the addition of the extra day for the high school. For the SRO, was that the only change or are there other changes?
Yeah. Yes, so now we're at, instead of 32, we're at
40 full hours,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, that's the change. Thank you. Mr. Burgess, the Athens Borough Manager, dropped that off today for us, I think. So I appreciate him very much
I
for that.
don't see a cost. I see percentages.
Um,
So who determines the salary and how?
We calculated the salary a couple of years ago, so it's going to be a difference of $2,500 overall.
Can we have that?
I can
Next
try.
meeting?
We
We
can
have
try
that
to
for
get
next
that
meeting?
for you. Yeah,
All right.
yeah. No problem. No problem.
Just have that so we can see what we're, the numbers.
Yep.
Okay.
I didn't know this was literally. We just got this.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion on that? Policies, moving on to policies. There are a ton, and this is part which we, have these been looked at, or are these going to be looked at next week at committee?
They will be looked at next week. We move committees to next Tuesday.
Yes.
Starting at 6:15.
Okay, so if everybody could just take a look at it from now until Tuesday, and then committee will make their recommendation.
It's in a couple second reads, so.
What's that got to do?
There's a couple first and a couple seconds.
A couple what? Yeah.
First and seconds.
Yeah, there's a couple that we already looked at. We have to look at again.
Can you, for next week, then distinguish those between
Yep.
first and second?
Yep.
Thank you. Yep.
I'd say highlight them, but Chuck has to.
I can bold, what I'll do is capitalize the ones that are second read.
Or
And
bold,
I'll-
or bold them or something.
I'll-
Okay,
I'll make-
bold. Chuck can see bold.
You
Okay.
can Just write it out there.
All right. If there's no other discussion on that, curriculum and instruction, Mr. Cascano, there's nothing. Transportation, final transportation cost for last year and bus driver list for this year. Any discussion or questions?
These are the final transportation costs for this year. When are we doing that contract for next year? Or does this final transportation cost include that half 50% diesel?
No.
Next year, okay.
Yeah. We try, so it's usually on the October meeting. We collect them by the end of September to give the contractors time to sign them and go over them with their legal counsels.
All right. Building and grounds, there's nothing. We recommend the changes for the future board. Oh,
Grounds, I'm sorry.
okay, go ahead.
If you, when do we go out to SRU?
So I think
it might be October.
I think
October?
it's October, yeah.
There's, they're working hard on paintings.
Yeah.
The staff are doing like
Shoot,
murals.
beat me to it, Deb.
It's beautiful. They're doing a well job. I think is that Mrs. Freeman?
Right
Yeah.
there she is.
Yep. Okay.
It's awesome.
Awesome
Nice.
murals. Very talented, and it really brightens up the hallways.
Christine, for number 13, do you mind reading the additions for the changes for next week's board action items? That seems like an hour ago.
Let me find them.
Probably was.
All right, so Mr. Stage would ask the board to ask SARE for a formal request for the co-op.
For all sports? Is that the one?
Let me do this.
Okay, go ahead.
For all sports, by October 21st of 2023 to start the co-op in the fall of 2024. Consider the RFP for 9 to 12 on a tuition basis for the 24-25 school year.
Okay.
The two RFPs I'd like you to consider Alloy 5 and Hunt Engineer for the formal presentation. And the viability of a school merger with Athens and SARE.
Is that everything?
Those were it.
Okay. So we'll have those added to next week's
Mhm.
agenda. Are there any visitor comments Please give your name, address, organization which you represent, and subject matter. It's requested that comments be kept to 3 minutes. Comments relative to private student or employee matters should be directed to the superintendent outside this meeting. Are there any visitor comments? Mrs. Buck.
Deb Buck, Roosevelt Street, Athens. The money that's collected at the door for the football games and like the basketball games, where does that go?
I mentioned the hot dogs.
So I'm funding your hot dog addiction?
Yes, yes, you are.
No, seriously, where's it go?
The money goes into our general fund and helps offset. We don't make enough money to offset the cost for athletics, but it goes towards that.
So just in the general fund, so all the sports money collected at doors goes into our general fund?
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Any other? Mr. Roppers.
Shane Roppers, Athens Township. So I just have a question. So have we formally received an RFP from SARE for the 2023, 2023 fall co-op from them? Have we formally received that? Okay.
All we've had is the football.
Okay. So for next week's agenda, as I requested previously in the meeting, can we put on to request a formal proposal from NRCS for the 2022-2023 fall season? I don't understand what the difference is. We haven't received anything from SARE for the 2022 or 2023, correct? So what is the difference? I'm just wondering what the difference is from why we can add to the agenda for SARE
We do have the formal request from Sarah, which is what we voted on tonight.
for the 2022
For
or
this fall,
2023?
which is 22, for football co-op for 22.
Yep. So
That's all we had is the 2022 fall football co-op.
So for next week's meeting, we're requesting from them what?
24, 25. Not next year, not this year, 24, 25. When the numbers are redone.
Okay, understood.
In November.
When it's done, yeah, through the proper cycle.
Okay, understood.
Does that make sense?
I get that.
We were asking for it before October of 23.
Okay.
PIAA numbers are run in odd years in
Understood.
October.
Okay.
So we're just asking for it before October of 2020.
Okay, so there's still time. There's still time. Understood.
Yes.
I get it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Okay. I don't think there's any more visitor comments. Board communications, there's none at this time. Board discussion items. I don't have anything. Does anybody have anything? Next week's meeting is Tuesday, August 16th at Harlan Row Middle School at 7 p.m. If there is no need for an executive session, do I have a motion and a second to adjourn?
Moved.
Second.
Thank you all for tonight. We appreciate it. Have a good evening.